Story 1. Communicate. It may not work, but full and open communication is the only solution. Story 2. Sex is an important part of a relationship, in my opinion. If you are both comfortable with it, then it is fine. If you are not on the same page, then chances are it will not work out. Story 3. You need to give some context. If one partner wants sex and the other does not, that warrants a mature discussion. If neither of you wants sex, you should ask yourselves why. Story 4. Find a hobby. Knitting, painting, rock climbing, or having sex with someone else. Story 5. If something bothers you, talk about it. If it does not improve, leave rather than live with regret. If you have a high libido and your partner does not, it can seriously damage your mental health and the relationship. My biggest regret was not leaving a couple of relationships sooner. I wasted years of my life being depressed and feeling rejected despite all my efforts to be a good partner. Story 6. Subtract your age from the life expectancy where you live and ask yourself whether you love your partner enough to resent them for the remaining years. People can be sexually active into their 80s if they are healthy enough. If the answer is no, look for a way out. If the answer is yes, have an honest discussion with your partner about your needs. Intimacy is important. No one in a committed relationship deserves to feel the constant sting of rejection. Story 7. I am in my 40s and I value that kind of intimacy to connect with my partner. It would be a deal breaker for me unless he is incredibly stressed or going through something horrible. I would still communicate with him. If sex is off the table for a while, we would have to work very hard to keep the connection going as partners. Story 8. Many people say to immediately leave, but my partner experienced a period of low sexual interest. They asked about it and we explored the reasons, especially because sex had not been a concern before. I decided to change birth control methods because the pill was most likely affecting my hormones, and it worked. Story 9. If your relationship is sexless and you want sex, work on it to get intimacy back. If it is sexless, you want sex, and working on it does not help, leave. If you are okay with a sexless relationship, carry on, of course. Communicate and seek therapy. You will not get anywhere by stewing in it. Story 10. Voice of experience here. I have been in 2 long-term dead bedroom relationships, each lasting more than 10 years. After the second ended, I sought therapy from a well-known clinical sexologist because I felt I was clearly the problem. I learned a lot, but to simplify, the causes are many, and the options are few: stay or leave. Approximately 5% of couples make a satisfactory comeback, provided there is no medical reason for the mismatched desire. The cause is likely that one or both partners overlooked critical incompatibilities while trying to make the relationship work. You probably need to figure out what you want in a partner and recalibrate to what is good for you. You can only do this after you leave, and it is difficult. I am happy to talk more about my journey. Story 11. Are you comfortable with a sexless relationship? Story 12. If, after working on it, going to therapy, and improving other aspects of the relationship, nothing changes, leave. I wasted years with someone trying to reach a place where she wanted to have sex, but it never happened. Do not waste your time or theirs. Story 13. Many people say leave immediately and predict the marriage will fall apart in a few years. If you still love your spouse, talk to them about your need for physical intimacy. Determine why there is a lack of physical intimacy and rule out physical and psychological causes. Then assess the health of the relationship. If nothing changes and your spouse is unwilling to adapt, only then ask whether they would consider an arrangement, such as allowing you to find someone else who is also in a dead bedroom for physical intimacy. If they refuse, you may need to consider the ultimatum of separation or divorce because they are unwilling or unable to change to meet your needs. Story 14. I recently talked with my spouse. I am currently pregnant and prone to urinary tract infections, so we have mutually decided not to have sexual intercourse during pregnancy. I hope to return to having sex twice a week like we used to. I could not talk to him about it easily late at night, but when I found better timing, he agreed we would resume that a few months after I give birth, using protection. Most of the time, I use a sex toy externally. The problem for us is that he now seems to see me more as someone he likes to take care of and who he loves and cares for, but not in a sexual way. We have been married 10 years. I do think doing things he likes, such as watching history documentaries on Netflix, is a way to his heart. So I think you should express your feelings to your partner. Story 15. Find a therapist or a relationship-focused psychologist to discuss this and other issues for a healthy relationship. Or, as many online comments suggest, consider divorce. Story 16. Do the dishes, fold the laundry, and put the kids to bed. That will earn you some intimacy. Then she moves the goalposts. You end up mopping and dusting while she watches short-form videos on social media. You go to a marriage counselor and find out she read a book called Manage Your Mom Epidemic. You spend a lot of money on therapy to explain that the book is nonsense, that intimacy is about love and not bargaining, and that what she really needs is time management skills. She resents you anyway, and intimacy ends. Story 17. Try communicating first, politely. Remember that just as no one is entitled to your body, you are not entitled to anyone else's. Listen without judgment to the other person's reasons. Do not threaten to have an affair. Do not get defensive or say anything that makes them feel coerced. That will make it worse. Discuss possible solutions. If there is no solution and you want to remain in the relationship, masturbate in private. Do not do it around your partner unless they consent. Find other ways to show affection and love. Sometimes people think they want physical affection when they really want intimacy. Go on dates and have fun together. Story 18. If you are both fine with that, what's the problem? Sex is not so important. Story 19. It depends on the reason. People may not want sex for many reasons. Health issues, mental health, stress, physical exhaustion, or past trauma. Story 20. I feel like I am the minority here, but I love my partner more than our sex. She is a lot more to me than someone to have sex with a few nights a week. She is my person, my comfort, my true better half. If we ever had a dead bedroom, I could not imagine leaving her. Luckily, we do not have that problem. Story 21. If you're fine with it, live your life. If not, it will get worse. I personally couldn't. To me, it is important and necessary. Story 22. Communicate with your partner first. Ask why the relationship has become sexless. There are countless legitimate reasons for this to happen, so do not make assumptions. Ask, listen, and think about what your partner says. Then calmly explain your feelings. Once you understand, and assuming there is nothing you can do on your part, decide how important sex is compared with every other part of the relationship. Are compromises possible? If not, do not force yourself to stay in a situation in which you will both end up resenting each other. It is easy for the person who wants sex to feel like the only victim, but the other partner likely feels a great deal of guilt and anxiety about not fulfilling all their partner's needs, assuming the reason is valid and not related to control. Story 23. Consider couples or individual therapy. A third party can help figure out why things went cold. Story 24. I was in a relationship for 6 years, and it ended rather spectacularly. You need to communicate. Doing so might reveal that the other person does not want the relationship, or it might show they are simply nervous and need someone to talk it through. I waited the entire time to speak up, only to learn she did not find me attractive and had been seeing someone else. The lesson is to talk about it. Otherwise, you will only be wasting time. Story 25. It varies from person to person. Whatever it is, I hope you know how to speak. Story 26. Communicate first and listen. Then consider therapy. If that does not work, your relationship may be over. Story 27. Assuming communication has failed, which it often does, you have exactly 4 choices. Masturbate, cheat, leave, or suffer. Story 28. Communicate. Do it directly and without embarrassment. Sex is a need for many people. Not every day, to be sure, but if you go months or years without it in a relationship that is partly driven by physical contact, explain that your needs are not being met, ask why there is a lull, and troubleshoot together. That is the only way to salvage the relationship. Story 29. You try to fix it. If it cannot be fixed, you break up and move on. Story 30. Please sit down and have an open dialogue about what might be causing sex to be absent from your relationship. I have been in 2 relationships in which sex disappeared, and I am now single. It only works if both partners agree. Each person should take turns listening, not just hearing, to the other person and try to understand them. All it takes is baby steps. Consider seeing a therapist if you cannot reach an understanding. Try phrases such as "what I heard you say was," and then repeat what you heard. Listen for key words you may have missed earlier as the conversation continues. In my opinion, I hope you both end up happy. Story 31. Talk about it openly. Don't blame. Be honest about how you feel and try to understand what is causing it, such as stress, mismatched needs, or routine. If nothing changes after genuine effort, it may be time to rethink the relationship. Story 32. Figure out what has caused the sexlessness and, if you can, fix it. Sometimes it is due to external reasons that are not under your control and you just need to wait. Some things are not fixable. Fixable things. The division of labor in your household is not equitable and one person resents the other too much to find them attractive. This can be changed. Do more and do not wait to be asked. Things that often improve with time. You have young children who need a lot of physical attention, so by the time they are asleep, the idea of being touched again feels unappealing. Do not take this personally. Things that may not be fixable or may require counseling. Your partner no longer finds you physically attractive. This happened to me when I gained weight. You have had too many nasty arguments in which you said unacceptable things and your partner has not forgiven you. You betrayed your partner's trust. Story 33. Sex, like fire, needs oxygen. Connection, intimacy, quality time, and affection to stay lit. Story 34. 2 things. 1. Communicate the issue and try to resolve it. 2. Leave. Anyone who says sex is not an important part of a relationship is full of shit. Story 35. Is everyone here on the younger side? As you get older, your body does not always cooperate. This affects men as well. Then there are real-life stressors: work, finances, family, housing, and daily life. If your partner is your best friend and someone you genuinely love, sex is not everything, nor should it be. Could you find such love with someone else? If you even have it? Open communication about fears, needs, and desires is important. Story 36. Babes, if you are in a sexless relationship and it is not by mutual choice, that is not a dry spell, that is emotional starvation in cute packaging. Communicate first, obviously, but do not gaslight yourself into thinking you are asking for too much. Physical intimacy is not a bonus. It is a basic need. If they are not meeting you halfway, it may be time to prioritize your peace and leave. Story 37. Talk about it. Work it out. Make clear that your needs in the relationship must be met. If that does not work, leave. Story 38. I stayed mostly for the financial convenience. Now I am so disinterested in sex that I may as well be a monk. Story 39. Talk. Why does no one communicate anymore? Express your feelings to your partner. You might not know what they are going through. Story 40. Couples therapy. I am a therapist who provides couples therapy. This is usually due to mismatched libido. Sometimes there are other reasons, but typically it is mismatched libido. This is not the end of the world. But if you let it fester, it can create many problems in the relationship. You need to determine early whether you can address the root cause, whether a compromise can be reached, or whether the relationship cannot be made to work and it is better to separate before resentment grows. There are many reasons a person can have low libido. Sometimes it is natural or genetic. Sometimes people are asexual and have not recognized or disclosed that to their partner. Sometimes libido is affected by circumstances. For example, some people with high libido do not pay attention to what is going on around them. When they are aroused, they want to have sex. Other people need household responsibilities handled. They do not want to have sex when there is a major financial crisis or other stress in the relationship. If a partner is not helping to resolve those issues, sexual activity is unlikely to happen. A common pattern I see is that the higher libido partner is less attentive to the issues damaging the relationship or is not carrying their share of household responsibilities. This creates a large divide. One partner resents the other for not wanting sex. while the other resents their partner for not helping enough at home. In most cases, if they communicated this and one person increased their contribution, the other would feel more emotionally available for sex and both would be happier. What usually happens instead is that both partners dig in, the divide grows, and they either split up, remain resentful, or one or both cheat. The higher libido partner may look elsewhere for someone with a similar drive, or the lower, or conditional libido partner may be drawn to someone who meets their emotional and practical needs, such as a coworker who pays attention and shares the workload. It is a pattern as old as time. Story 41. Ask yourself whether it is a problem. If it is, communicate with your partner and proceed from there. If it is not, still check in to ensure they do not feel unloved. Story 42. Without knowing your gender, the relationship duration, the strength of the emotional bond between you and your partner, when this started or anything else that may have changed recently, it is hard to give solid, non-professional advice. The first order of business and the best thing you can do is to talk, ask questions, and determine whether there is an outcome that both you and your partner can live with. Not wanting or enjoying sex can be the result of trauma, physical pain, or other attachment or emotional issues. Therapy or medication may be the solution. For what it is worth, sex is not as important to some people as it is to others. Some people totally dislike the idea. Depending on the strength of the relationship and the types of bonding activities used in place of sex, some partners learn to live with it and others cannot. I have some experience with this and have had to come to grips with it. Story 43. Give your wife a goodnight kiss, then go to work the next day. Story 44. Continue to be respectful and faithful. If a partner does not want to have sex, they must not be forced. If I have a problem with that, I will keep it to myself because it is my problem. Story 45. It helps to reflect on why you fell in love with your partner in the first place. Think about what made the connection exciting and meaningful at the beginning. Often intimacy grows from small things. Deeper conversations, prioritizing quality time, and creating opportunities for new experiences that restore curiosity and closeness. If the emotional foundation feels shaky, physical intimacy often suffers. Focus on strengthening your bond outside the bedroom. Both partners should nurture the emotional foundation of the relationship to create space for intimacy to return. Story 46. For your information, if you have to sit your partner down and say, you know how you enjoy feeling validated by my desire for you and how happy it makes you that I have this sexual desire for you, could you at least give me the slightest indication that you feel the same way? Then you are already in a bad place. Having a sit down to remind your partner that discarding our sexual intimacy is hurtful and makes me feel depressed and like a failure is a sign of trouble. Relationship and marriage basics. Have sex with your partner on a regular basis. If you do not, explain why you are not or will not. If you change the dynamics, it is your responsibility to explain why and to fix it. Story 47. All my relationships are currently sexless because they are familial or platonic. The answer is to carry on without worrying about sex with these people, because what the fuck? Story 48. Get divorced. I will not share what I did before my divorce, but I do not recommend having mistresses or other relationships while married. Story 49. Are you staying with your partner only for sex? It sounds like you entered the relationship for on-demand sex. Story 50. What is the context of the issue? It is hard to give an opinion without context. Is there no private place to have sex? Is this a long-distance relationship? Do you have no time or energy? Do you have a low sex drive? Sex is not everything. In my current relationship, I prioritize a deep emotional connection over sex. Story 51. Explain why you think this is a problem. Consult a couples therapist if possible. Story 52. You need to sit down with your partner and talk about it. Otherwise, this frustration will turn into resentment. Story 53. Continue. There has to be a good reason. Sure, it is important, but many people would compromise on that if it meant being with their significant other. Story 54. I cannot answer without more information. Did something happen? Do you have young children? How long has it been without sex? Story 55. Context. How long have you been together? Is this a relatively new development? Are you living together? Often the issue is resentment that accumulates and reduces interest in physical intimacy. For example, if you are living together and one person is a neat freak while the other is messy, resentment can grow because the partner who cleans all the time feels they are keeping the space clean for both of them and sees the messy partner as only thinking about themselves. You would not want to have sex with someone you do not like. Communication is vital. Having a discussion about the source of the resentment is important. Story 56. Have you tried talking to your partner about it? You have not mentioned making any effort to communicate. Story 57. I can't help with content that encourages harming or confining someone. Ask her to get something from your basement, then close the door. Story 58. You must communicate. Ultimately, if your needs are not met and you do not see signs of change after you put your best foot forward and allow some time, then you have to pull the plug. Story 59. Life is short. Cheat, analyze or fix the situation, or put on your best Shark Tank voice and say I'm out. Story 60. Communicate. If you need more sex, talk to your partner about what can be done to achieve it. Story 61. Acknowledge that you are either married or might as well be. Story 62. If communication does not work, find a lover. They are everywhere. Story 63. If one partner does not want it and the other does, is it okay for the partner who still wants it to look outside the relationship? Story 64. Please explain more. What type of relationship are you referring to? A dating relationship? Are you starting a relationship with your partner or girlfriend? Are you saying that he does not want to have sex until marriage? Think about why you want to be in this relationship. Do you want the relationship mainly for sex? If your partner says he does not want to have sex until marriage and that does not feel right to you, consider what that means for your values and needs. What should you do? It depends on how much you want to be with this person. You may have different expectations about sex. Talk openly about your needs and boundaries, and decide whether you can accept each other's positions or if the difference is a deal breaker. Story 65. I created a subreddit called Unwanted Partners. Join to discuss your dead bedroom issues without judgment. I wanted a community where people are treated equally. Story 66. Try to work it out together. If that fails, leave or accept that you are in a sexless relationship. Story 67. My girlfriend is on all kinds of medications and her libido is practically non-existent. We are older too. We really have to work at it, but communication, understanding, and making an effort have made a huge difference. She is trying different medications to get her out of that funk. We have come to a happy medium. In short, you need a partner with whom you can communicate, someone who actually makes an effort. If she does not, after talking and explaining how you feel, you have two choices. Live with it or end the relationship and find someone else. Story 68. Life is too short to be with someone who doesn't want sex all the time. I was with a woman like that. I stayed too long and it ended. Eventually I found a new partner whom I like much more, and we're often intimate. Why? Because we're compatible, and a sign of that is an active sex life. Story 69. I would communicate about it and see how open she is to compromises and similar solutions. If there is no possibility of communication about this subject, I would probably end the relationship because we are incompatible. Story 70. If it is important to you, step 1 is to communicate. If things do not improve, end the relationship. Relationships are not like a bad lease where you are stuck for the year and can change things at the renewal date. This could be the rest of your life. Story 71. Depends. I had no sexual drive for a long time due to medications. My partner was supportive, but I was determined to regain it. I discovered I have premenstrual dysphoric disorder and needed birth control to help balance my hormones. This is not how I was when I was manic years ago, but I am glad to feel like a normal human again and to have sexual desire. That said, it is also normal not to want sex. I believed I was asexual for a long time, and not wanting sex is valid for many reasons. Story 72. I had a problem with my boyfriend. He always wanted sex, but for me it depended on my mood and sudden surges of desire. We figured out that my arousal came from unexpected moments, so he began surprising me. After that, I wanted it repeatedly. Sometimes I also told him how I preferred it. Story 73. I would definitely communicate with my partner and try to figure out what is going on. Story 74. See if my life motto helps in this situation. If it is broken and cannot be fixed, return it to Costco. Story 75. Talk, listen, then come back and share the results within a set amount of time. The goal is to evaluate what has changed, if anything. Walk if you must. I did. All this and sex meant more to me than to her. Trust me, it was a pile of things with sex way at the top. Story 76. Try to communicate and find the truth. If that does not work, you have two choices. Stay in the relationship and seek sexual intimacy outside it, or end the relationship and find someone else. Story 77. Have the conversation. Be present and ethical. Be honest. Do not lie or cheat. Be kind, loving, and forgiving. Arrive at a solution together, whatever it might be. Story 78. More than likely, the best thing is to leave. However, it depends on what you want. Story 79. Both of you are part of the problem, so you need to be part of the solution by talking things through. You may need to end the relationship, or you could work things out. Do not fear change, especially if the situation is harming your mental health. During the discussion, do not be confrontational or accusatory. Realistically determine where each of you stands in the relationship and proceed from there. Story 80. I, a 67-year-old man, have always had a stronger sexual drive than my wife, a 66-year-old woman, but her drive completely crashed 19 years ago when she started taking Effexor. I decided to love her as best I can, no matter what. I court her every day like we are a new couple. Little kisses, hugs, back rubs, making dinner she likes, and even cleaning up after dinner sometimes. She understands that sex is necessary for our intimacy, and I understand that treating her like a newlywed is necessary for our closeness. When we make love about 90 times per year, the foreplay is less about getting her aroused, which is not possible, and more about establishing closeness physically, emotionally, and spiritually. If sex were about my needs rather than our closeness, it would probably never happen. Story 81. Be in a relationship without sex. Easy peasy. Get better problems. Story 82. First, identify whether you are okay with that. Then communicate your expectations, needs, and concerns, and establish boundaries. Story 83. You can stay and regret it later if it is a deal breaker. For example, my 5-year marriage ended out of the blue for other reasons. You can leave and never look back. You can consult a therapist. I do not know. There are other options too. Story 84. If we have already talked about it and there is no resolution, I would break up with them. Story 85. If you are younger, get out. If you are older, it is pretty normal. Story 86. You do the same thing you would in any relationship that lacks affection, conversation, or companionship, or that involves constant contempt or rudeness. Try to change it, decide what you can live without, or leave. Story 87. Leave the relationship because there is clearly a lack of communication about what you both want from it. No matter how long it has lasted, it causes you unnecessary stress and makes you do things you do not usually do. Story 88. If I were not sexually attracted to my partner, I would not be in a relationship with him. This is not about his physical appearance. I love him regardless of his shape. I am emotionally attached. I like him for who he is, and I find that sexy. If something happens, I will try to talk it through, because that is what you do in a relationship. Communicate and find a solution together. If both are willing to work on it and there is love, then good. But if one is unwilling, there is no point in delaying the inevitable and remaining unhappy. Story 89. My situation is different. After my wife's chemotherapy treatment, we both noticed a decline in her libido. She tried to engage, but her lack of interest made it difficult to stay enthusiastic. Not wanting to be that asshole, I decided to wait until she was ready. 3 years later, I still have the urge and she shows no interest. I do not want to cheat on her, and I do not want to bring this up as an issue. Story 90. I personally would not mind, but people often assume you must be having sex if you are in a relationship. Story 91. If you can't work it out with your partner and you need it, there are millions of other people. Story 92. In my 20s, it would have been a deal breaker. In my mid-50s, I do not really care and actually prefer much less intimacy. This is the reality of aging bodies and a 30-year relationship. Story 93. A. Don't have sex and continue the relationship. B. Leave and have sex with whoever you want. I feel like this is pretty obvious, laughing out loud. Story 94. If you do not want to be in a sexless relationship, leave and find a new partner. Story 95. A sexless marriage is like a house without a bathroom. You can make it work, but chances are you will eventually seek other options. Story 96. Seek counseling. If your partner will not agree to attend, the relationship may be a lost cause. Story 97. From my experience, it stemmed from a lot of unresolved and ignored personal issues. I am ashamed to admit that for years I was not responsive to their constant communication and signs of affection. I will never forgive myself for it, but I am trying my best to fix my past mistakes. To add to the advice already given, communication is paramount. In my case, it was not a lack of communication, but rather that the right things were not brought to my attention. I do not place blame on anyone but myself, but when something clicked in my head and I understood the cause, I could focus on resolving the root issue. Couples therapy probably would have saved years of frustration, and I wish I had considered it earlier. Story 98. God, just fuck someone else. Why would you let someone make you feel unfuckable? Story 99. There is a reason, and maybe it is not yours. I honestly would not want to be with anyone who is not going to nurture the entire relationship. For me, I want connection. Without it, it does not feel right. Story 100. Communicate. Is one of you no longer attracted to the other? Have health changes reduced libido? If the person has no desire to change, find an exit strategy. Story 101. Leave. It's done. I had been there. It was all about control. I removed that control and walked out the door. Best thing I ever did. Story 102. If you have talked about it and it is a problem for you, you should leave. Sexual incompatibility is a completely valid reason to leave. Story 103. Communicate that this is a problem and you are not interested in being in a sexless relationship. If the person is not willing to address the problem, end the relationship. Story 104. I was in a relationship for 15 years, the last 5 of which were sexless. I tried talking about it, but he did not think there was a problem. My self-esteem and confidence were at an all-time low. I believed there was something wrong with me. I began sleeping with other people and felt guilty. I finally ended the relationship, and he still insisted there was no problem, acting as if it had come out of the blue. I am with a new man who cannot keep his hands off me. It is the best feeling. Story 105. I can give some insight because I have been in a happy relationship for almost 10 years. We have been married for over 2 years, and my wife is the most extraordinary person I have ever met. I would not trade her for anyone. We have not had sex for over a year, and I do not expect that to change in the near future. The reason is complex, but I will simplify it as much as possible without losing the meaning. I have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, but the diagnosis was made 1 year ago. I am 30 now. I grew up in a dysfunctional home. My father was unbelievably competitive even with me, and I was harshly criticized and sometimes physically punished for not being perfect. He was violent. He broke my leg when I was 1.5 years old, and he also assaulted my mother. My parents divorced when I was 7. My mother was often absent because she worked long hours to provide for my sister and me. Because of all that, and despite being gifted in many areas, I developed a pervasive sense of not being good enough. I felt worthless unless I was perfect, which rarely happened. I developed coping mechanisms, seeking validation through attention from many women. I started my sexual life extremely early, around 11 years old. I never viewed sex as important for both partners. It was a way to boost my self-esteem. Of course, it did not work, but it was pleasurable, so I did not complain. When I was 21, I met my wife. Our relationship and sex life initially seemed good. My wife was very invested, open to many ideas, well-read, experimental, and willing to buy toys and accessories. The important point is that it was her inner drive that propelled the relationship. I was mostly a passenger, passive, uninterested, and not emotionally present. I was not attentive to her needs or giving her enough reassurance about her attractiveness. Because of her own problems, she was not vocal enough to demand changes or expect results. We both started therapy about 5 to 6 years ago. After a lot of work, she became more assertive and open, and I learned to listen to her. Our sex life, from when we met until it stopped, was okay for me and at best average for her. It stopped completely 1 year ago, because I work as a doctor and have 4 jobs, and because she struggles with depression, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and insomnia. We had difficulty addressing the issue. After careful planning, she confronted the matter directly and told me, bluntly, something I cannot stress enough. Invest your time, lots of time, and your full will to fix this issue with genuine interest. I had a hard time accepting that sex is not like breathing or eating. You are not born good at it. You need to learn it, and to learn you must have a genuine interest in your own needs and your partner's needs. Read books and blogs, watch educational tutorials, but not pornography. Talk openly. Be present during intimate moments. Look at your partner, talk with them, and laugh. Restoring. Your sexual life is a matter of communication, so communicate. Speak openly about your needs and let the other person do the same. Never judge. Be curious and non-judgmental. Remember that a sex life reflects who you are. If you are caring, empathetic, open, and sensitive, you can become an excellent sexual partner by practicing with one person and continuously learning your partner's preferences. People who have great sex on the first date are the exception, not the rule. Right now, I am beginning to learn how to be a better lover for my wife. We are starting from the beginning and addressing my lifelong problems. I am optimistic because we are both committed and want to move in the same direction. I hope this helps. Good luck. Story 106. Communicate with your partner and work together to solve the issue. Avoid pointing out faults. Approach the conversation with an open heart and an open mind, and listen to understand, not to respond. What your partner says is valid and deserves your respect. Do not be dismissive. Find middle ground and be patient, as change may not happen immediately. Show appreciation when your partner is willing to listen to your feelings and concerns. Make sure you both understand what each person will do to address and resolve the issues causing a decline in sexual intimacy. Always be honest and transparent about your intentions and boundaries. Do not settle for less than you expect, as that will breed resentment in the future. Story 107. Leave if it is not for a medical reason. It is not a relationship without sex. If you both agree, then you are in a friendship and business arrangement. Story 108. Talk about it. As awkward as it is, avoiding the conversation only makes resentment worse. Sometimes it is stress, medication, health issues, or mismatched drives, but you will not know unless you bring it up. Story 109. It depends on how committed the relationship is. If you are asking this, I would assume it is a serious relationship. Otherwise, you could leave. If you have children together, it is more complicated. However, children are better off with happy parents than with parents who remain together and resent each other. Talk with your partner and try to work on the relationship. Seek counseling or therapy. Ask yourself how important sex is to you. If it is very important and you cannot find a solution with your partner, consider ending the relationship. Do not let resentment build for years. Story 110. Life is short. Leave the relationship and find happiness. The effort required to regain even a fraction of the former relationship will cost more energy and mental health than it is worth. The world is full of people who are sexually driven. Story 111. If you don't want to be there, don't expect the other person to change on their own. Tell them you don't want that. If they don't want to change, leave. Don't waste each other's time. Story 112. I am in a Reddit more relationship, so you could say I have that going for me. Story 113. Communicate. If you are single and this keeps happening, end the relationship. If you are married, Try marriage counseling and determine whether your partner is still attracted to you. If your partner is no longer attracted to you or will not put effort into the relationship, consider divorce. Do not wait forever for things to improve. Life is short. Story 114. You should visit the Dead Bedroom subreddit and decide if you are okay with that future. Story 115. Communicate. If things improve, stay. If they do not change, it is best to leave. Story 116. Communication is essential. There is no guarantee that this will change anything, but it is the only shot you have. If the other party is not willing to at least talk about their reasons for withholding intimacy, then you have a choice to make. There may be an underlying factor affecting their libido, but they may also simply be content without sex. I hope this helps. Story 117. Don't worry about it. I'm too old to care. Sex isn't everything to me. I am 40. I have had only one partner, and I married that person. I think there is too much emphasis on sex. It has always been hit or miss. I have talked with my partner, but I don't reach orgasm easily and my partner reaches orgasm too quickly. That has always been the case, and it's easier not to have sex. I don't expect pills or toys to help. Story 118. So you're asking me what I would do if I had a best friend. Story 119. It depends on why. If the relationship is sexless because of a medical issue or a physical inability, you may have a greater obligation to stay and try to find a solution. If it is due to a lack of intimacy and the relationship is essentially dead, you should consider leaving. Cheating will likely end the relationship and lead to mutual resentment. Story 120. Talk to your partner about it. If it doesn't work out, remain friends and offer your usual greetings. Story 121. I will leave the relationship. It is essential for me. If they are willing to try, that is a different story. But if there is no willingness to change, I will leave. Story 122. Either open the relationship up or move on. I would never accept a dead bedroom. Story 123. Internalize the fact that you do not need sex to live a meaningful life, let alone to sustain a healthy relationship. Story 124. For me, I would find a new relationship. I am not going to be in a relationship without sex. Life is too short for that, and the ability to have sex does not last forever. I would not care how much I might love someone. I would not expect anyone to stay with me if I could not or would not have sex with them on a regular basis. Story 125. Look elsewhere for a relationship. Sex is not the only thing I think about, but physical intimacy is something I need to have in a relationship for it to work for me. Story 126. Communicate openly and ask whether they are open to trying other sexual partners. Start there. You can do this. Story 127. Stop trying to get sex in a relationship. Sex should come from outside the relationship except for procreation. Otherwise, have sexual partners for sexual needs and a relationship for emotional support and stability. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.